Hi everybody, welcome to another continuation of the test-driven development screencast. This is Jove. In this episode we are gonna start working on the following and unfollowing functionality, and basically that's gonna wrap up when we complete this functionality. I mean, that's gonna wrap up the initial set of features that I wanted to have in the application, and at this moment they are gonna work only in memory. So basically when we finish this, we'll be able to follow somebody, then see their posts, and when we unfollow, just get their posts gone. And that's the initial set, as I said, of functionality that I wanted to have for the application before I start working on the backend. So then when we wrap this up, we'll start working on the backend and ultimately make the application talk to a real backend rather than using this in-memory implementation of the endpoint, sort of say. So without further ado, let's see where we are gonna go. So basically here I have written that we need to include information for each follower so that we can, the idea is that now we have this button in the list of the friends that says follow, and we want to be able to say follow or unfollow based on whether we follow that person or not. And then follow back is gonna be when we don't follow them, but they are following us. So actually, this is follower is we have a little bit of misinformation. If I open the friend class, this class represents the friend, which consists of a user, and it tells us whether this is follower. Essentially right now is wrong because it represents whether we are following the user. If you take a look at a user catalog, we have a function that says followed by user ID, and this user ID is us, so followed by us. In that sense, this is not follower. Follower is person that follows us, not the person that we follow. This is sort of because of my bad English, so I have to rename this to something like is followee. So that would be a better match of a name, I think, because that should represent whether we are following somebody. And then later on, when we have this functionality like follow unfollow, then we are gonna add the functionality for follow back, which is just a flag to tell us if somebody's following us. It should be a simple thing. But that's gonna be probably in another episode, because in this episode we have a bunch of other work to do, which is the functionality. When we click that button right now, nothing happens, so we're gonna be working on that functionality that will actually trigger the following. Okay, so let's first check this in what I have done right now. So I've done this renaming, so I would say improve naming, and I'll start off by writing new test inside a friends package, and that's gonna be toggle following test. So why am I saying toggle right now? Because as I said, that button, I'm thinking right now, that button is sort of the same button, but we are just updating the text based on the current state. So we are not sort of updating or having different buttons. So the button should say follow, unfollow. So essentially it will act as a toggle. So that's why I think it is a good name if I say toggle. So toggle following test. So let's go ahead and write the first test. So what we want to do is to be able to follow. So what happens when we follow somebody? And we can start off with the assertion. So let's start with something very simple. So I would expect the friends screen state to be updated with friends. That's gonna be a list of let's say friend Tom is import Tom, and then is followee will be true. So this this user Tom will we will start following them, so it will become followee when we do the action. But that's gonna be the state of my view model. I think I named it screen state value. So that's the assertion that I want to read, essentially. So I want to make sure that my friend screen state friends list is gonna be updated. A friend Tom will become a followee of mine when I do an action, and the action is gonna be view model toggle following for, so my current user, so the user that will follow Tom has to be somebody. So let's say Anna ID, then Tom ID. So that's gonna be my following. So I'll toggle Anna ID and Tom ID. I'm sending Anna ID to follow Tom, and then Tom will become a followee. That's sort of the idea. And now let's construct this view model. So the view model will be my friend's view model. Then I have to pass here a bunch of things like repository, dispatchers, and saved state handle. These ones are easy. Test dispatchers, saved state handle, saved state handle, and then the repository. The repository is gonna be, this should be val. The repository will be a friends repository, and I have to pass an in-memory user catalog, and of course I have to feed it with friends. So or not friends or users, yeah, users. So these users are gonna be Anna and Tom. Now let's create Anna and Tom. I'll start off with Tom. Tom is going to be a user with ID Tom ID, and then build this. Move it up. Then Anna's gonna be also a user with ID Anna ID, then build. I'll move it also up, and I'll create the users. The users is going to be a mutable map of irrelevant to mutable list of Anna Tom. Now let's figure out this API that is now not existing yet. So let's create member function. Let's split it. So here I'm gonna have the user ID as an input argument, and then the followee ID. Let's move it up. So I want to have the public functions on top, the private functions below. So I have the load friends and then toggle following. So part of the given here, so I have a failing test, that's good. But the test is not complete because I think part of the given would be setting up the initial state. So here, the initial state, save state handle, is gonna be empty. What's gonna fill it with users initially is if I call the load friends. So basically I need to have some friends loaded and then be able to actually toggle the following, even if it's empty. Like I cannot toggle the following if I have no friends, essentially. So part of the given should be having that here. So I think it will it will improve the intention of the test if I say load friends for actually Anna ID. So load the friends of Anna, then toggle the following. Anna is following Tom, then I would expect Tom to be a friend. Let's run, let's see what's happening. Right now, okay, I have a problem with the dispatcher. So what I have to do here is I have to say extend this with instant task executor, and now run. And now it says that I'm expecting that my user is the friend that will be followed, so is following true, but actually it is false. So that's my actual. It's false. So how do I make this functionality work? So what's the sort of the simplest thing that comes to my mind? So I will set in the save state handle thing that is expected in my test. So in my save state handle for screen key, I'll say new state, and the new state is going to be I don't know, friends screen state, where my friends are going to be a list of user, and then the user is going to be user, where the ID will be the followee ID. The email will be what the builder creates by default. So if I open my builder of the user, I'll see that my default user email and about are user@friends.com, which is what I will paste here, and then the about user, which I'll paste right here. Okay, it doesn't like list of user, rather it likes list of friend, user, and then true. And that should make the test pass. And it does. So what I can do now is I can check this in, and I can say can follow a user but only with hard-coded data. Now, as I said before, part of this, the given is that I'm loading friends, so then I have to actually use that. I have to use that state to update it later on, rather than just creating new state here. So what I have to do is I need to get the current state. The current state is going to be this, or default it to an empty friends screen state. And now I have to update the user inside this. I have to find the user that matches my followee ID in my current state and update that one. So what I have to do first to find this user from my current state, because I'll need to find the user and update it. In order to update it, what comes to my mind right now is that I'll need to find its index, so then I can set new value for that user, basically updated value. So I'll go by something like index is my current state users, current state friends, find, or no, index of first, where it user ID equals followee ID. So find that user, find the index, then get the actual user too. Matching user is going to be my current state friends at that index. Now what I have to do is, instead of saying that my new state is this, I have to say updated state will be my current state, copy, and then say the friends is going to be updated friends, and then my updated friend is going to be the current state friends. In order to be able to manipulate this, because it's just a list, it is not mutable, I have to convert it to mutable list, and I have to say apply set index, the matching user copy is followee equal true. Now that should be of no consequence because I'm not using this updated state. My tests should still work, but now here I should be able to say updated state, and that should still work, and it does. And now I can remove this and remove this. So I sort of got rid of the hard-coded data. So all the data comes from the test. Now this is okay, this is fine. Let me check this in. Replaced data with abstractions. What I'm gonna do is write a new test, but first maybe do a little improvements here. So basically I'll pull this out here, make that private, and also I'll pull this, so make all of these private too. So that's my follow, and I would like to write a test for unfollow. Let me first check this in. So what I would say is this visible on the screen actually? Let me see it better. Maybe I can, yeah, do like that. So new test, what happens when I unfollow? So when I unfollow, what I would expect is friends screen state to be where my friends is going to be list of friend, and now I would say Anna, and is followee will be false. So I would expect, so in the given I will say Anna is a followee. Now I toggle the following and then she's no longer a followee. So that's what this test should be about. So that's gonna be my view model, screen state value. Let's create the view model. The view model is gonna be again my friends view model, repository, dispatcher save state handle, but also apply load friends for Tom ID, And now here I would say that the view model, the trigger will be view model toggle following Tom ID Anna ID. So Tom and so Anna was a followee of Tom, and now Tom is toggling the following. So Anna will no longer be a followee. Now let's set up the repository. The repository is gonna be the friends repository with my in-memory user catalog. And then I have to pass the users, but also followings. Because initially I have to set up some followings, and the following is going to be a list of following. Let's import, where Tom ID was a friend of Anna ID. Anna ID was a followee of Tom. So that's, I think, complete test. Let's watch it fail. So it fails because it says that what is expected is that isFollowee should be false, but it's still true. Why is it true? Because I set it up, this following initially in my repository. I'm using that repository. I load the friends. When I load the friends, it is already part of who is actually Tom following. So when I toggle the following, unfollowing is not happening. And then what happens is this. So the test is failing. So how do we make this pass? Is we can say we can leverage the user ID maybe. So we can say something like is followee equals user ID is equal to Anna ID, and then if I put here is followee, I think both tests should work, and they do. Nice. Now let's check this in to be safe for refactoring later on. So what I have here is can unfollow a user, but only with hard-coded data. So why I'm putting this with hard-coded data is that it will tell me, it communicates that commit message to me that I'm not done, I haven't completed the things yet. So here what I have to do is find a way to determine whether, so now this if is like nonsense here. What I have to do is determine, was it a following, was it unfollowing? So I'm thinking from the backend perspective, I keep list, or in my catalog right now, I keep list of followings. So when a toggle happens, I have to see, do I have this following in the list? If yes, remove it and then communicate back saying that I unfollowed. Or when a toggle happens, I have to check, do I have this following in the list? No, then add it and communicate back, okay, I followed. So I have to communicate two different sort of things for the same toggle. So the toggle is the same, so there is no error case, there is success case in both cases. So I have either follow or either unfollow, and I have to communicate that. So I'm thinking, how do I model that? So the simplest thing that comes to my mind is, I was thinking first about using a result, but here I have success and failure. So if I use success, and if I pass in the success back this following, that actually has happened in the has happened in the backend in my catalog. How do I describe using this following whether was it a followed or unfollowed? So I have to either introduce some boolean or something like a flag, or just create a different type. So I'll just go ahead and create different type, and I'll improvise here with a, let's say, sealed class, follow state, which will have inside a data class saying followed, and then I have val following, and that should derive, import this, that should derive from the follow state, and also a data class unfollowed, and do this, basically do the same, but they just communicate, so they act like objects, like followed, unfollowed. Now it should be of no consequence because it is not used anywhere. I'm just improvising right now, thinking how this is gonna work, and probably if I need to add different state here, like I don't know, out of internet, backend error, blah blah blah, it's gonna be easy to add them here. Now, how do I leverage this follow state? So how do I replace this line here with this follow state? So I can say is followee equals I want to introduce something like, how I will introduce new thing, then replace the old thing, and then remove the old thing. So something like if user ID equals Anna ID, follow state followed, following user ID followee ID, else unfollowed, and then I would say I want to wrap this, basically all these thing into a method where I'm gonna say, okay, give me the result, and then based on the result update into what I will need to in order to do the update. So if I'm thinking whether I should pull the followee ID out of this result, or something like when result is followed, then do something like update following state for result followed ID true, is unfollowed, then update false. This is what I want. And then if it was error or something, then I will update the probably update the following state, or maybe not the following state, rather show some error or something. That's what I want. Now if I take this let's create this function now. Create function, followed ID is followee boolean. It does nothing. I think now it should still work because I'm not leveraging this new code that I've done. I'm quite improvising, but what I can do is I can pull this, put it here, remove this line, and then say followed ID here. And that should still work. And now if I remove this, it should still work. And now what I would do is I'll call a function that will give me the result back. That's what I wanted to do initially. So toggle following will be a function where I will also be switching thread or that kind of things, like am I doing here, and then get the result, and based on the result call a function that will update my screen state. Then that function, so let's convert this to block body. This function that currently is giving me back the follow state does not belong to this view model, so it's a completely different or separate level of abstractions. This right now is just giving me hard-coded data, but I need to store this data in the repository. So sort of not in the repository, but I have to store it in the catalog. So it will go away. But what I have here is this update following state, and then I just take the ID and the new state, and then using that ID I find which user in the current state I have to update, and then I just deliver I'm just updating the state. So that's fine. I also have to, let's check this in first. So what I have is extracted little functions to align levels of abstraction. I will extract this one into a separate class in my production code. And what I have here is two functions that are updating my UIState, and they are sort of, like a little bit more of bunch of lines of code. Like this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 lines of code. It's okay, it's bearable, it's not that long. I think, and it's not that hard to read. It's just sequential code. And as I said, this update following probably won't be here. Now what we can do is continue this refactoring to how do I get rid of this data here, like the user ID equals Anna. Anna. I want to push this data up the call stack, and I don't want to have this user ID equals Anna. So rather I want to check basically whether I have this following to do an unfollow, or whether I don't have this following so I can do a follow. So that happens in my catalog right now, and it should happen in my catalog. And then, but here I am converting whatever comes from the catalog into a follow state. So I basically have to move this into a separate separate layer, a different level of abstraction. But also I'm thinking whether I should start working on that, or maybe write a test that will say, I don't know, there is an error, for example. But I think it will be easier if I do this refactoring first, because I'll just eliminate a bit of duplication. Because what I'm thinking right now, if I write a test to say, okay, I have a following, or like I have a, I want to throw an error for some particular, let's say, following that I'm trying to add. If I have the, if I first refactor to move this into the repository and the catalog, then I can say, I can replace that with a test double and say, like, give me a catalog that is unavailable or something, and then write that test. That's gonna be easier. Otherwise I'll have to come up with duplicated, with additional data, and then here I add an additional if else. But basically I see where this algorithm is going. So how this is gonna work, I don't think it's gonna be rocket science. So I'll just keep adding that additional test and just move this somewhere else. So my final idea is to replace this Anna ID and replace this data, push this data up the call stack. So now what I will do is, am I green? I'm not. I mean, I am green, but I'm not clean. I have to check this in. Yes. So what happened is I have extracted a class into separate file for standalone file. That's nice. So now I want to, as I said, move this one. So I'll just maybe make this a little bit wider. I want to move this into the repository. So if I open the friends repository and I copy this in there, there is no easy way to, I don't think there is an easy way to do that. So let me see. If I try move, it doesn't work. What if I remove the public and try to move? It doesn't work. What if I select the entire thing and try to move? It doesn't work. So the problem is that this does not work. What happens if I try to cut? Just for the sake of trying, paste it here and then move. Is this still working? It does. Now move. Now it is allowing me to move. That's weird. I wanna move it into friends. No, it is only allowing me to create new. a new file. So I'll take this, I'll go to the repository, paste it. Right now it does nothing, so nobody's calling this. It should still work. Now here I can, instead of calling update following, I can say repository update following. That should still work. Now I can eliminate this. So because there is no direct refactoring, I use my old good trick. Duplicate the thing that you have wherever you want. Make sure you didn't break anything. Replace the clients of this old thing to use the new thing. Make sure you don't break anything. Wipe out the old thing and make sure you don't break anything. So this is basically how you do replacement. Now I'm green. I would like to check this in and say that I have moved the function into a lower layer. Nice. Now let's look at the update following. So the update following here will have to talk to the catalog. So add a following into the catalog as a command, and then the catalog should say, okay, I've toggled this, or I've come to an error, something like that. Now I will do the same trick to move this function and make it part of the user catalog. So let me just take this signature, but in fact it shouldn't it shouldn't return follow state, rather it should return the following. So what I'm thinking of is do things like let's maybe directly write in the catalog yeah, I'm thinking about what's the best way to emerge this, and I don't know what's the best way to emerge this. So I can directly open the, let's say, in memory user catalog here, create user, and I can say function at following, or not add but rather toggle, and then take user ID as string and followee ID as string. But the thing is that I don't know if I can super I cannot make it part of the interface easily, but I need this basically signature. Let's open the user catalog, see what we got. Create user followed by load friends for, and then basically here I can just add. I'm not gonna make it still suspend because yeah. And what I will be working with is that yeah, I'll add the suspending calls later in the coroutines, but what I need is toggle following, take the user, take the followee, and then return following back. but I have to indicate now. Again, was it a following? Was it an unfollowing? So I'm thinking, what's the best way to do that? So whether I should come up with different type. That's interesting. So toggle following, and it should return following, but instead of following, I should return something like, let me see what I have here. Yeah, my idea is that I don't want to mess with what's my domain to what's the external world. So this basically is the external world. This in-memory user catalog or the actual user catalog, I assume it is my backend. I don't know if I want to deal with my state here. I don't want to deal with my state here. So that sealed class that I came up with is sort of state that is only used in my domain. I don't want to mess with that one here. So I'll just have to come up with, let's say, okay, let's just come up with another type. Here. And then let's see how that's gonna go. Okay, my interface. So toggle following, following result. Let's say create class following result, extract separate file. It's gonna be part of my domain user. So yeah, I'll keep it in my friends data. It's gonna be a data class that will have something like following result, or maybe field class. In fact, what I'm coming up with now is the same that I have, so let's just dump this and use what I have, what I created before, and use the follow state. I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this. Let me see. Reset everything. Yeah, so I'm just improvising right now, but yeah, I want to return some simple type here. I want to return simple type that will tell me was it a following or was it an unfollowing. But I also have to return back the thing that that was in question, the actual following object. So this object, and I'm struggling to define this. User catalog. So I need a function toggle following user ID string following ID string, and the result will be toggle following, which is gonna be a class into my friend's data. Or let's put it in my domain. Friends. And this is going to be a data class. Following and then it will be is added boolean, something like this. I don't know, I'm kind of my brain stopped working right now, so I think I'll just use this, and if I find a way to improve, I'll improve later. For now, I'm okay. Override this function now, and then here what I would say is return toggle following, and I'll just take well, I don't have to take this one from here. I'll do here right away the logic. So if I'll say if followings contains well, let's do following is following user ID following ID. Next, I would say if the followings contains this following, I would say followings remove following, and then return toggle following with the following, and then was added should be false, else followings add the following and make this true. That should be it, but the problem is that okay, lift the problem is that now this followings is a list. I should change the signature to mutable list, and that should still work, except I have to update some test doubles, which is okay. So throw connection unavailable exception, throw the backend exception, okay, let it be to do here, close, close, close. And I think in the tests, yes, there are some tests that are using this now. So instead of list of here, I should say mutable list of. Same in my previous test. Ah no, the previous test was not setting up the, but there are other tests, yes. Mutable list. Let's maybe wrap this into a one line and see. I think they're gonna, yeah, it fits, so I think it reads a bit better. At least to my eyes. Run this. Now the test should still work. Okay, so one more test double. I'll leave this for a little bit later. The tests are still green because this new thing that I've added is not used. I'll deal with this later. So what I have to do now is, instead of in my update following here, I should say result equals, or maybe toggle result equals user catalog toggle following user ID following ID, and then if toggle result is added, followed, else unfollowed, but instead put the toggle result following and get rid of this, and also here that should be the return, and here also toggle result following, or maybe I can say, oh yeah, that's nice. Now that should still work, and it does. And now I'm completely using my repository. There will be probably some refactoring here when I'll add additional functionality, but in general, that's it. I kind of like this. We can also try the UI, how that's gonna react, because I think for the sake of trying, let me see where we are. So let's first check this in. So what happened is I've updated a bunch of test doubles, pushed the responsibility down the catalog, what we are missing still is, let's write that down, introduce coroutines, handle errors or error states. That's what comes to my mind right now. But let's first maybe, as I said, fix what I had initially in my mind to fix. It was this one. So basically, this is the controllable user catalog that we worked on in the previous episode. So we should be able to toggle following, but control with a function that toggling. So basically we should expose a function here that will say, I don't know, private val followed by, or maybe I'll just leave it as it is right now, because why I'll do that, because right now it is unused, but also I don't have introduced the coroutines. So I'll anyway have to use this controllable user catalog when I'll be working on the UI that will be showing some sort of state that will describe that something is being ongoing while we are trying to follow or unfollow. And then in that sense, I think it's something that I'll deal with later. For now it is okay. And I think we have the functionality in the view model. What we need to do is call this toggle following now from the friends screen. What we have here is, yes, this button, but maybe it will take me a little bit too long, so I'll leave that for the next episode. So in the next episode, I think we'll see what we are gonna do, but handle error states, and then also, yeah, include information for each follower, but maybe update the UI. So I think that's kind of okay. Yeah, basically this button should trigger the following, or like should toggle the following in the view model. So I have to propagate that callback up here in these functions. It will take me a little while, and it's already 1 hour running, so I think I'll do that in the next episode. So yeah, I think it was interesting. There was a little bit brainstorming with the types, especially the ones that are coming from the catalog to my domain. Yeah, I think I just struggled. That's okay. It might be a sign actually that something has to be changed. However, yeah, we'll see. We'll determine how that's gonna go. So thank you so much for the time and attention. I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers.